Hi guys, this is Kayla.
And this is Becky, and we're with a couple of Bees Read.
And we also do book reviews, but we've already done that for this week. Happy New Year again, by the way. So instead, we're going to do a review of our 2023 through books and authors.
That's right. So we had we added some new things to the blog this year.
Yes, we did, including author interviews, and we got to meet several authors in person and showed clips from their speaking on the blog as well. So Becky, you have that list for us. Who all did we get to hang out with this year?
Well, two of my favorites that I have read for years and years and have, I guess, every book they've written. Karen White.
She's so funny.
She was funny and she was very encouraging to you.
Yes. She told me, just keep writing.
That only takes one yes. And you finally got your yes.
I did.
And I know we're going to get to meet her again at some point, and then you'll be able to share that story with her. Because she said, let me know when you get your yes. So we loved her. She was so personable. And, we read her The Shop on Royal Street and then The House on Britannia. And I just love Karen White. She's a great author. So never read a bad book by her at all. And then, of course, there's Patty Callahan Henry. I've read her for years. I have all of her books. They're all behind these quilts. Both of those authors are. And her book of Flora Lee, it was a historical, literary historical fiction based in England. And
right after World War II.
Yes.
And God. It's the first Patty Callahan Henry I read. Yeah. And I loved it. I cried. Bo looks over and he's like, I'm crying. And he's like, what's wrong? What happened? This book?
Oh, yeah. And she's just a fabulous writer and just the sweetest person. She was so sweet, so personal. And she actually lives here in Alabama. So she's
I was going to say, she's got a little bit of that Southern belle going on.
That's right. And you like her because she's a graduate of Auburn. So
this is true.
This
is true.
Yeah. But she was fabulous. I really love her. And it was, for me, authors that I've read for years and then get to meet them in person, kind of fangirling on them a little bit and everything. So it was great. But that's a couple of them that, we got to go and meet. And then, of course, you went to Killer Nashville and you got to meet a couple of folks, which ended up leading into our interviews.
Into us interviewing authors, which is a new segment we're doing. We got a few more I need to reach out to soon, probably. But I got to meet the amazing Baron Bircher, who was our first interview, and his book is one of my favorites that I read. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but it was called Reckoning, in case you don't remember, and just such a good writer, so many twists, and the way that man describes things, it's lyrical.
Yes.
Like his prose is lyrical, and when I looked up in his bio, he used to write music, like song lyrics. Right. I was like, no, this makes sense. But the plot is such a thriller and such high intensity.
And
high intensity.
So nice.
Such a nice man.
Oh, he was a great man. I really enjoyed talking to him, and I hope he's back at Killer Nashville next year because I think I'll be going with you next year.
Yes.
I really want to meet him in person.
Yes, he's so nice.
He is.
And then Maggie Giles. So I signed with a publisher, and one of the authors that, like, the publisher, when you do something like this, they interview you. One of the things you want to ask is, can I talk to your other authors? And without me having to ask, my publisher was like, here are these authors you can talk to. Here's their contact information. Please reach out to them. And one was Maggie Giles. And she was just so nice, gave me the best advice. And then she had a book come out like really right after I signed. So we read it and did an interview with her, and she's so great in person, and Twisted was so twisted.
It really was.
Like so much.
Right. And then she's got a new one, Wicked, coming out.
Which is the sequel.
Yes, to Twisted, and we're hoping that we can get an arc on that.
Yes. And then of course my queen, Terry Perlato. Because, guys, one of the reasons I was like, yes, I'm going to Killer Nashville is because her name was on the list of guests. And I walked around that conference, I know the first full day and half of the second day with her book in my bag, just waiting to find her.
Yeah.
And then what I did, I got her to sign the book, and she's so nice in person, and she agreed to do an interview. Like, super, super nice lady.
Yeah. So, that's the great thing is all of these authors, they're so personable and so kind. It's so encouraging. So, it was really great. It was a good addition to our blog, and just kind of, someone checked off some bucket list authors of mine, and I'm looking forward to some others. So
yes, and I think it's also good because so much this year in publishing hasn't been good news, but it's not like there were several scandals, and if you don't follow publishers on YouTube, you can follow them. They're going to talk about.
We're not going to tell you about.
We're not going to go into the scandals, because what we want to do is create a blog that shows you what the majority of publishing looks like, and the majority of publishing are people who just want to support each other, get their stories out there, and help other people get their stories out there as well. And those are the authors that we've had the privilege to interview here on this blog. So now let's talk about our favorite books. And we're going to.
Well, I will say this. I had a Goodreads challenge, 24 books, and I read 29 according to my Goodreads thing. And Joanne DeMaio, I read 5 books of hers last year. She came out with actually 4 during the year, and 1 I had finished around Christmas time or at the end of the last year, and so it went on my New Year thing. But I read her the most, and I love, she's got a stack of the Seaside Saga and then her winter novels. Of course, Heather Weber. I love Heather Weber, and she is on my bucket list to meet and to interview. So, Heather, we're going to be reaching out, and I hope you say yes, but the Coffee Shop of Curiosities was fabulous. Can't wait for her new book. Don't know what it is yet, but it should be out this summer sometime. And then I had several books that Susan Boyer, love Susan Boyer. She does the Liz Talbot series that we've read, the Low Country series, and she came out with a new one that can be read as a standalone. It's called Big Trouble on Sullivan's Island. That was a new P.I. Hadley was introduced, and she was just great. I loved it. Wilder Women, Wayward, and The Magician's Daughter were 3 more that I kind of picked out of the group that I read that I just loved so much. And anybody that's into women's fictions knows Dorothea Benton Frank, and she passed away a couple of years ago. And her daughter Victoria's debut novel came out, My Magnolia Summer, and I loved it as well. Of course, the books, we've shared this before, the books I review that we talk about, they're all 5 stars for me, because if they're not a 5-star, you will not know I read that book, because I'm not going to talk about it.
For me, if it's not a 5-star or at least a 4-star, I'm not going to finish it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to review a book I couldn't finish.
No, that's exactly right.
Because it takes, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into creating a book. I know that as a writer. So, I'll be honest, I feel like a lot of bad reviews for books, especially if you're a fan of Goodreads, a lot of those bad reviews, I think, come from a place of maybe hurt. Like, maybe they're just a bunch of authors out there who their story didn't come out, so they're lashing out, which is tempting sometimes. There have been books I've read that I'm like, I don't feel like this is as good as mine, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
Because when I step back from that, I'm like, actually, this book's really good. Like, it always...
that I agree, but there are books I have read and I go, I know Kayla's books.
Well, you can say that, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, I say it then, but you just don't know what books I'm talking about.
Yeah. But, so my top 2 authors that I've read multiple books by them were Frida McFadden I guess I became a McFan. I think that's what her Facebook book group is called.
Funny, I like it.
Over at some point over 2023. And then, of course, Grady Hendrix. Everyone remembers where I just binge read every Grady Hendrix novel because How to Sell a Haunted House traumatized my soul, and I needed more. I really enjoyed The Magician's Daughter. Ninth House, those were probably my top 2 fantasy, which is weird because they're completely different fantasy. Ninth House is dark and gritty, and oh my goodness, that just happened. And then The Magician's Daughter is lighthearted. It has some dark, scary moments, but it's such a good read. Let me see what else.
Well, we know Terry Perlotto because you read
both of hers, All the Dark Places, as well as What
Waits in the
Woods.
Because that one came out the day after Christmas.
Yes.
But we got an arc on that. So
I also had, and I always pause with the second book title because I also this year read What Lies in the Woods, which is a completely different book by a completely different author.
Right.
But both are actually really, really good. Let's see, Jessica Payne did The Lucky One, which was one of my top thrillers of the year.
Riley Sager.
Oh gosh, Riley Sager. The Only One Left became my new favorite Riley Sager novel. Oh, he's amazing. My Heart is a Chainsaw was probably my new favorite horror novel, but it would be close between it and How to Sell a Haunted House. Cackle was another sort of humorous horror that I read. As for literary fiction, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, goodness, it was just so beautiful. And surprisingly twisted. And then Karen Slaughter with Pretty Girls, which everyone read before me, so you guys know how good it is. I think those would be my top picks from the year. I read about 44. I also binge read 7 Christmas books in December. So I had, in November, everyone knows I was doing NaNoWriMo and writing a lot. And what I write is thriller, mystery type stuff. So, and then, the only reading I was doing was for my critique groups, which they all write thriller, mystery kind of stuff. So I needed a cleanse. So in December, I was like, Christmas romances. It was like binge watching Hallmark, only it was reading.
Yeah.
And they were some really good ones. Some authors I haven't read before. Kate Bailey was one of them. Let's see. Kate Forrester, Kate Watson, just a bunch of Kates. Scarlett Wilson is probably going to be one of my favorites when I need that palate cleanse from all the dark, thrillerly stuff I read.
Right.
But yeah, a whole bunch of Christmas reads. It was a good year overall, and we can't wait to keep at it and do more. And next year around this time, I'll have plenty of Christmas romances to recommend for those of you who are seasonal readers.
That's right.
Instead of just the Halloween recommendations that I always do.
And let us know what you read and what you suggest. And maybe we'll be able to add it to our to-be-read list.
Yeah, or any authors you would like us to reach out to for an interview.
That's right. And let us know what you're reading for the new year. That would be interesting. See where we go from here.
We look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Bye, guys.
Bye.